want to play this game as a power game, right? So, you know, you take someone like Tim Lincecum. A lot of guys are like, well, this guy obviously, you know, people say he never worked out. Well, the guy's got he's got a genetic gift there. But they say every time he goes into spring training, he aces his speed is really fast.
You can do a standing backflip too.
Yeah, that's my other point. He can do a backflip. How high is your vertical jump? You can jump up in the air and spin around backwards and land on your feet. How high do you think he's got to be? I'm
30,
saying 40 or 50 inches, because I can't do it. And I jump 34 inches, I couldn't do it. Okay, so Tim Lincecum, people uses the argument, well, there's proof that you don't have to be an athlete. Give me an effing break, right? That is a great athlete right there. So, you know, if you took Tim and you put him in an Olympic program, which you probably didn't have to go through one, probably had some great genetics to work with. And his dad gave him training programs. I've read articles where his dad talked about custom designing his training programs, his strength training programs. But if you put him into an Olympic environment with a vertical jump 40 to 50 inches, his power to weight ratio is probably maybe over 150% of his body weight. Meaning he can take 150% of his body weight and probably throw it off the ground, like in a clean. You know, so if Tim Lincecum weighs 150 pounds, 150% of his body weight is, what's the math? 225? 225? So he could power clean 225. A lot of people go, well, I can power clean 225. I mean, I can do 225, 4 sets of 10. Does that mean I'm a better athlete than Lincecum? Yeah. Because that's well under my, 150% of my body weight. So that's how you have to think now of an athlete. You think the other way around, and you go, well, then, Tim Lincecum's not a great athlete, so then that's my excuse to never have to do this, to never have to actually develop myself as an athlete. I just got to figure something out. It's some device that I'm going to find. It's some mechanical position I have to get in, and I'm going to be 95. I know it, right? That's the candy that we're all looking for. That's the easy way out, and I don't believe that. I believe that this is a tough road. I believe, what Nolan Ryan's famous quote was, it's every boy's dream to play Major League Baseball, but it's every man's nightmare to train. And if you know Nolan Ryan's career, that dude, God gave him a gift, but he honed that gift, and he developed that gift, and he continued that work ethic through his full career, which is what gave him probably the best career for our power pitcher in the game. So, so there we go. So if we're here to develop the power athlete, so we believe that if we can develop you to be more explosive, and the best place I believe to do it is an Olympic program, and that's going to help us on the mountain. All we have to do at that point, when we have all this explosive power, is then we've got to train the motor coordination through the mechanics, which we're doing in the drill. So I do really believe I could take an Olympian who I got to train around with, Matt Bruce. The kid was 5'9", 170 pounds, and he could clean and jerk 450 times.
Wow.
Like well over 150% of body weight. And you'd think this kid would be, you think his arms would be that big, and his legs would be that big. Does he look big? I mean, he's ripped. He's ripped, but it's not hypertrophy. It's not like, not only that, the kid can kick his leg over his head. He can do a split. So those are the athletes that we want to be like, we want to be around. But I believe if I took that guy, Matt, and I put him in a year of motor coordination training just to be a pitcher, I guarantee you he'd blow us away how hard he can throw in a year with that power. I took a football player in LA. He was the linebacker for Stanford. He was diabetic, and he had some problems with the team pushing him too hard with his diabetes. His dad wanted him out. His dad got him set up to go to house at USC at the time. And this is a kid that threw in high school. He was like 85 in high school. And he hadn't thrown a couple of years playing football for Stanford. Comes back to me within like 2 days, he's throwing 85 even, right? And this kid was 240 at the time, 6'3". In 2 weeks, I had him at 90. It was so easy. I mean, of course, he had some motor coordination from playing the game young. That was easy. And I didn't have to overcome that major hurdle. But the power that he had gained when he went and played for Stanford converted very quickly back to that motor coordination and gave him a considerable jump in velocity. So, big believer in this type of approach. I'm going to give you some more reasons why the Olympic lifts. Why the Olympic lifts? A lot of coaches want to scare you about the Olympic lifts. They're dangerous. They're too complex. They don't convert. All right? These lifts can be dangerous because they're complex, but they're very valuable to the power athlete. And the great understanding of the Olympic lifts for the pitcher is that it's the only lift in the weight room where we throw the bar. It's the only lift in the entire weight room format, barbell training, where we actually throw the bar. There's no other movement where we throw the bar. So therefore, it's going to be more specific to pitching, right? We all hear about sports, specificity. We want to be as specific to the skill when we're training for the skill, right? So we couldn't be any closer to the skill of throwing when we're actually getting to throw the bar in the lift. All right, so that's a big plus. When you're throwing something, there's a good chance you improve and develop in that environment. It's going to convert well onto the field where you're also throwing something. Of course, there's tweaks we have to make in order coordination. But the way the muscles are firing is very much the same. Just the sequencing is different. Okay. The other thing is, because we're throwing the bar, it is a pure power movement. I'm really confused why they call who knows what they call the power lifts by now? Raise your hand if you know what the power lifts are.
Hang, clean, squat, and bench.
It's usually the deadlift, squat, and bench press. None of those in my book are power lifts. They're all strength lifts. Because if you take any of those strength movements, a squat, bench press, a deadlift, that has nothing to do with how fast you move the bar. All it matters is that the bar is moving up and down, right? Do I have to do a deadlift? Can I do a deadlift this slow as long as it's moving, Josh? Can I do a squat this slow as long as it's moving? Okay. Now, when we get into the Olympic lifts, what are the Olympic lifts? Anybody know what the Olympic lifts are? There's 2 Olympic lifts. What are they? Competitive ones. Clean and jerk and snatch. We don't do the snatch. Snatch does, you have to have serious shoulder strength. Baseball players, because we put a lot of wear and tear on our shoulders, tend not to have it. We're always battling. So we don't do the snatch. We do tons of variations of clean and jerk. But in those lifts, those are power lifts. Those are the 2 Olympic lifts. Josh, can I move clean like this? If I'm doing, say, 100% of my body weight, can I move it clean that slow? Why not?
So you wouldn't be able to get under it?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to get it up off the ground. You wouldn't be able to throw it, right? So now we have to move those lifts with all the speed up front, or all the force up front. And then that's going to throw or project the bar up. So that's how we move. When we move a pound, or a clean or snatch or jerk, we have to move like that. So that's the point. How do we pitch? Do we pitch more like this? Is that our movements when we pitch? Or is that our movement when we pitch? Right? So that's where we don't have to train there every time. But if we can build more power in this kind of a movement, what do you think that's going to do for us on the mound? We're going to now, instead of being this guy, we're going to be, this guy. And then, what was I talking about all yesterday? Y'all got to burst, separate. This is going to help that. We're going to get more explosive to be able to do that. Unlike you, Connor, was struggling. All right, another thing. When they actually measured, Dr. Garhammer measured, he took a force plate, he took an elite lifter, and he measured the amount of force being pushed through the ground in all the lifts. They measure power through watts, based on your body weight. You don't even have to understand how it all measures up. You just understand the difference in the numbers. So when they measured the squat, the deadlift, it was around 1,200 watts of power it produced. When they measured the clean and jerks, it was 5,200 to 5,600 watts of power. almost 5 times the amount of power you push out. We know why though, right? We know why. You're not pushing as much power out when you're doing this. You're pushing up to 5 times more power when you're doing your max weight in a power movement. So you couldn't find a better lift for power than the Olympic lift. So, but we know, studies show we have to build strength. We have to have a strength base for us to really enhance power. So we still need the deadlift, the squat, and those lifts. But those should just be there to build the base for our power to go on top of it, which is where we actually bring the speed in, right? The challenge with the Olympic lifts, like I said, is because we're throwing it, it opens up a whole new game. It becomes a sport. We have to throw it, we have to catch it. Therefore, now the risk is higher, so we have to be in the right place, in the right movement, the right mechanics. But we have the same challenges when we're on the mat. So I'm going to be as focused on the techniques of these lifts to keep you in a safe environment as I am on the mat. But also know, when they studied all the sports. It's an English study. They studied all the sports in the English school system. Olympic lifting to rugby, soccer, basketball, to see where most injuries occurred. It was a 4-year study, thousands and thousands of kids. When you had supervision with the Olympic lifts, it was the least amount of injury in all sports. When the kids were taught how to do it correctly. The most dangerous was soccer and rugby, the sports where technique really isn't that important. It's just all that matters is that you're able to make the play. So if we are supervised, if we know what we're doing, we're actually one of the safest sports that we could be in. I've never actually seen someone significantly hurt themselves. I've seen pulls and all of those things that come with fatigue and stuff, but I've never seen anyone significantly hurt themselves like I've seen on the baseball field. You ever seen a broken leg on a baseball field? You ever seen a torn rotator cuff on a baseball field?
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen those in a weight. Never. So a lot of kids, it's crazy. Some kids come in here so scared of these lifts. I had one kid coming up to the bar shaking. And I said, what's wrong? Because my coach told me I was going to hurt myself if I do these lifts. There's a lot of fear tactics to keep you away from these lifts. If you learn the facts and you learn the science around them, you'll understand that if you're doing them correctly, it's a safe environment. I focus on, obviously, technique. I don't want you ever compromising a rep or weight for technique. You've got to stay within our technique. But it creates an environment for us to really enhance our performance. Also, studies link the Olympic lifts as the most effective in modeling or hypertrophying fast twitch muscle fibers. So that's what we want as athletes. That's why there's so much drugs in baseball, because they all want more explosive muscle fibers. This is how we do it naturally. Okay? Taking the Olympic lifts away is going to be really challenging, because then you got to go out of the heavy load environment into the light load environment. A lot of guys will say, well, I'll avoid the Olympic lifts and do the squats, the deadlifts, and plyometrics. That's fine. But I guarantee you, if I took a group, the same group, and took them to an Olympic approach, my results would be better at the end. Being in a heavy load environment in a power move is far superior to building a power athlete than just building strength and putting them in a light load power environment with plyometrics. I use them both. We're going to do plyometrics today as well. All right, any questions on Olympic stuff that anyone's ever had?